welcome to another Gran Turismo Sport Manufacturers Cup Championship race. This time is Kyoto Yamagawa in Group 4 and into qualifying. This first corner you want to stay as tight as possible and get on the throttle as early as possible to get a good run and power all the way up the straight. You want to slightly clip these curbs. I missed that one there, which cost me a little bit, but all good because Slipstream's pulling me up and I'm in a fairly decent position here. I'm not too close to the cars in front, but I'm close enough to get Slipstream. Run a bit deep into this corner, as again you want to try to keep it as tight as possible for the fastest possible line. Down here you want to brake just before the shadows, run a bit over the curb to open up the corner as much as possible, use as much of the curb as you can, try to stop the rear from getting loose, which I did a little bit on the second part there, which is a bit of a lottery in terms of luck. Sometimes the car will step out, sometimes it won't. Here again, keep it tight, try to get on the power as early as possible, hit the curb on the exit. Take a wide line in here to try to open up the corner, braking on the curb, and then try to turn in over that curb. I could have probably used more of that second curb. Here, use the second line here on the left as a braking marker. Try to get an early turn in and upshift and onto the power as early as possible and to the finish line. I actually think that final corner was one of the ones that I gained the most time on. So pretty good lap, and I'm happy with that one. Now into the race, and as you can see I dropped back a few places from where I initially had my time, but I'm in a fairly strong position here. I'm starting on the medium tyre. I'm going to be pitting after lap 1 and then it's going to be a straight sprint to the finish. So I'm kind of hoping that a lot of the people behind me will be on medium tyres as well. Just it'll kind of open up some space for me to just push in clear air. In any of my practice races beforehand, I've not had any problems holding on to the slipstream over the first lap, so I'm feeling fairly confident I can hold on to this position. Coming up the hill, there's a bit of a gap opening, but I'm not too worried at this point. I run a little bit too deep and then trying to get it under control, I just let the rear get a bit loose, so I'm starting to get a bit more worried now. So I can see the car behind is probably going to be wanting to push his way through at some point. I run completely offline through this corner and I know at this point the car behind is going for a lunge into the next corner, so I decide early not to fight it. I stay as far to the right as possible, see him going for it, I leave more than enough space and just tuck in behind. So now just, like I said, I'm pitting this lap, so I just want to follow into the finish line, well, after the final corner now. You can see a bit of chaos in front. Right, this part is one where I'm looking who else is going to be pitting, and my heart kind of sinks. I'm the only one on this strategy, so that's going to make it a lot more difficult. Like, I was expecting at least 4 or 5 of these cars in front here maybe to pit because they're, you know, at the back anyway, they've got nothing to lose, and they would get the clean air, so I'm kind of hoping that would have been the case, but I dropped myself straight into the fight, and you can see already I'm having to get the elbows out a little bit more than probably I normally would do there. But I managed to get the place. They've got a bit of a gap in front now, so I can push for this lap. So closing in, bit loose on the chicane again, but I've got the slipstream to make that gap back up for the time I just lost. Again, braking as late as possible here. Nice tight on the curb. I actually took the corner really well then. If I could have done that corner like that more often, I think race might have been a little bit better by the end. It's almost the right line there, just I took a bit too much curb that time, so it just unsettled the car. I can see he's got his lights on, that he's indicating that he's going to pit, so I'm actually kind of happy about that. Again, it opens up that bit of a gap in front for me to push. So I'm thinking now, some of the cars shouldn't be too far off the pace, so maybe it would take like 2 laps to catch up is what I'm thinking. But I can see them fighting a little bit, and the gap does come down a bit faster than I originally expected. To have a little bit of a lift through the long left-hander there, just to try to get rid of some of the understeer. Have a nice solid run through this corner. I don't unsettle the car, so I've got a good overspeed on the car in front. I'm not going to take any silly lunges from this far by this. That'd be insane. I just want to get as close as possible and then just pick and choose my opportunities where I'm not going to lose as much time. I want to try to get past like that. So you can see the battle in front, and the Porsche just up ahead gets a bit caught up in it. So I take a really tight line on the exit and manage to get alongside the Porsche. But then because the Citroen moves across to the racing line, I end up getting the slipstream, so that, and then he brakes really early, catches me a bit off guard, and I'm able to just about put my nose up the inside and take this place. So far it's looking pretty good actually. I'm making my way through the cars and I'm not losing too much time. So I'm expecting, with how much I've just caught these people around me, that I can pull away from them, or at least stay in front if it was only because they're fighting. And I'm constantly just watching the gap to the leaders. I mean, the few cars in front are FF cars, and they are slightly overpowered here, to say the least. So I'm not expecting to get the top couple of positions, but kind of 3rd to 5th, somewhere in that area is where I know I've got a good chance. Again, catching the cars in front pretty quickly here. So the cars are just separated enough that I'm able to get into the slipstream and kind of put in a fairly good lap, catch up by the end of the lap. And as I said with the in my qualifying lap, I actually was really good through this final corner. So I was always able to close right up onto the back of people. Oh yeah, I was definitely flashing my headlights at a lot of people as I came up to them. Just, you know, they would have seen, some of them would have seen that I pitted on lap 1 and was closest to the front anyway, so I'm already a pit stop ahead of them. I'm flashing, I'm catching them all. Some people, like this GTR, didn't really fight it at all. He lifted off just before the braking point to let me through. And then he just tried to stick with my slipstream. So he took a really smart approach to it, and I kind of respect that. Because I'd just caught him up by a significant amount the previous lap, and then he let me through and just tries to follow along with me. And now these cars just up in front is a bit closer to what I expected. It's like their pace was actually fairly good. So I wasn't really catching a lot through the lap, but then coming into these final few corners, they start squabbling pretty badly. So I run a bit wide there, but I just about managed to keep it in track. That final curve, that curb on the exit of the chicane is a bit of a killer. In the previous time slot, I'd got myself in a really good position, and that curb kind of just spun me straight left, and there wasn't really anything I could do about it. It's kind of similar to the curb glitch that some other people have had. It's kind of like a random spike left off the curb, and it's not really anything you can control. So I ended up losing a load of time, and cost me a fairly good result in the previous race. So I was always a bit wary about that curb, just about going wide over it. As you can see, the gap to this pack is significantly closed down over the previous lap. I run a bit deep through the left-hander, but I'm able to get a fairly fast exit, so I still start gaining a few hundredths of tenth or so down this straight. I'm really pushing the tyres hard here. I know it's kind of a situation where I need to save the tyres, but I'm kind of thinking I just want to get forward as fast as possible, so I'm maybe burning them out a little bit too much. But I know kind of in terms of lap times, even the worn softs are still faster than mediums here, so I can push them pretty hard. And the pack here in front, they completely mess up, and I'm able to gain a few positions here. So that all worked out pretty good, actually. Now I'm right on the back of the Mazda. And this guy is pretty much the polar opposite of the GTR from before. He wasn't necessarily paying attention, and he just wants to fight positions. He's not thinking that I pitted already and I've gained a full pit stop on him. He just wants to defend the position here and now. And say this is the car where I have most trouble with. This cost me possibly a fairly good result. He runs a bit wide out to the exit of the long left-hander. I'm in a position where I could have gone for a lunge, but he starts turning in, so I back out of it, and I don't get the best run through the chicane. Otherwise I might have gone for the move up into this corner. Again, I'm close enough that I could have gone for the lunge, but he goes defensive, and so I take the outside line to get a good exit here, which I get a much better exit. I think about wall of death in it around the outside, but he just has too much of a better run on the inside, and then that compromises my exit, so I'm under attack from the two behind here. That bump actually helped me out a little bit. I was a bit slow on the exit there because of I think I upshifted a bit too early, and I didn't really get a good run through the corner, so that little bump actually significantly helped me back into a position to push back up to the Mazda. In this first sector, he was actually fairly quick, so I wasn't too bothered about there being a bit of a gap. I could use the slipstream and catch back up at a reasonable pace. And this is the part of the lap where I was expecting to close back up on him again and have him under some pressure, like the previous lap. But I've still got the Subaru on, my tail to worry about as well. I get a bit loose on the rear going into that corner. I have to think about the Subaru making a move up the inside. But I still get a really good run out of the corner. I'm a bit too close to him for my own liking here, so I don't get the best run through this corner. It's kind of like I said on previous races, being too close means you don't get a good run at people to go for an overtaking move. So if I'd been a bit further back, I might have been able to get a better run through the corner. But luckily he pits, but I did lose probably about 2 seconds worth of time there, and that is kind of significant, with the people in front now coming out of the pits, and strategies kind of unfolding. So the people who started on soft might have changed to medium, and that 2 seconds might have put me in the slipstream, or well, it would have put me in the slipstream. So but now I've got clean air again, I've just got to push and use whatever I have left. So I know I'm going to start suffering through some of these long left-handers. My front right is getting a bit second-hand. Just got to try to keep the car under control over these curbs, try not to unsettle the car too much. But yeah, I was a little bit frustrated with the Mazda. We was running completely different races, and like I said, I was a full pit stop in front of him. If he'd let me go when I was alongside him the first time, he would have just followed me through that lap, and he probably would have gained time over, the next lap. And I wouldn't have lost all the time either, so I don't know, it's just one of those things. It was always a risk with the strategy that I was running. Like I said, I needed more people behind me from the start to run this strategy for it to work, but that's the risk I needed to take, though. I wanted to make most of my moves, without actually overtaking if possible, because overtaking's slower. So, but this race actually turned out to be fairly fun still. A lot of battling through the midfield. And now I've just got to push on, and I've got my target just up in front of me. I've got enough of a gap behind that I feel fairly safe. But I know if I make any major mistake, the car behind could pull up into the slipstream to make it difficult, so I can't get too complacent. Nice run through the left-hander there. Getting myself set up for the chicane again. could definitely have used more curb there. I just started suffering with more understeer this late stage of the race, so I didn't really get the turn in as good as I could, but still I gained a load of time through this corner. It's still the one corner on the track that I was consistently fast with, and it leads onto a bit of a straight, so that's more of a gain, so couldn't have really picked a better corner. So yeah, I know at this point I'm not catching the cars in front. It's like I'm pretty much in my own little space here. 6th is where I should finish if nothing goes wrong. So it's still it's a 1 place improvement from where I started. But yeah, those like 2 seconds lost with the Mazda could really have it could have put me in the slipstream of the fight in front, which they're all on medium tyres, and like I said, the worn softs are still faster than mediums. Because the start of this lap I gained this middle sector, I actually lose a bit to the group in front, and then this final sector I start taking time back out of them again. So overall through this final lap I do have a net gain on the cars in front, so I was still lapping faster. Most of it being in this final sector, but like I said, this is the sector where I was fairly strong. So I say I'm happy with this race. It could definitely have been better, but I took the risk with strategy and it didn't really pay off this time. You can see me having a bit of a look down just to see where the Mazda finished. Just had a bit too much time to think on that last lap. Second highest EMEA McLaren this time out. Not great, to be honest.